Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Living Mythology, I'm proud to bring you one of our legacy shows, Brian's Drive-In Theater, with the one and only Brian J. Walker. Greetings, Brian. How are you?
I'm well tonight, Hercules. How are you doing?
I'm looking forward to the cinematic treasures that you will grant to us today in this episode.
Well, as you know, I've been on the road quite a bit for the last month and a half or so. And a lot of things. We've lost so many, wonderful actors just in the last, 5, 6 months here. And that's how I wanted to lead off. One of my favorite, scream queens from the 1950s, Mara Corday. Passed away in February. However, her family didn't announce her passing until May, so nobody knew what had happened to her. And she was a gorgeous, pinup and model in the early 1950s, and that eventually, along with good acting skills, translated into a Universal contract. And at Universal, in the early 1950s, Universal was pretty good about bringing its contract players along fairly slowly, putting them in small parts, putting them through their paces as well, acting lessons, dancing, singing, and what have you. Unfortunately, in the mid 1950s, Universal dumped almost all of its contract players. Most of the studios, the bigger studios that had contract players, were doing this as well. So it wasn't just Universal. But a lot of people lost their jobs, like George Nader. Mamie Van Doren was a Universal contract player. There are many others, and so was Mara Corday. And actors had to scramble, when they lost their contracts. A lot of them went overseas and found numerous roles and good pay. Others slugged it out here, and Mara Corday was one of the actors who stayed here and took whatever roles she could find. And she did several, I should say, horror and science fiction films. And these days, they're 50s classics. The Giant Claw, Tarantula, the Black Scorpion, and she's a co-star. She's not just decorative in these. She's got a major role in them. So she's not just eye candy in the films. She actually has everything to do with the plot. And it's good to see that. And like I said, she's just stunning to look at. I mean, it's even after, if you find newer, more recent pictures of her, and you can here and there, even after you age, and as most of us lose our looks as we age, she did not. She still looked incredible. Just a gorgeous woman. And she was 95 years old when she passed away, and
Wow.
that's a good long life.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
yeah, most people are not that fortunate to live that long.
I've been fortunate to work with Scream Queens when I had my television showing, when I was filming on my movie, and then when I appeared in a bunch of other like ultra low budget movies, Debbie D, Debbie Dutch, to name a couple,
Oh
and
wow.
uh, they've they've gracefully gotten older. I'm not going to say aged because they don't look like they've aged. So there
Hmm.
must be some immortal quality about Scream Queens that transcends time and space as we know it.
Well, I've watched a lot of episodes of Botched, so that doesn't mean I know anything about plastic surgery or anything like that. But what I have, and I used to think that, yeah, I'll probably get some touch ups, as I get older. And so far, I haven't done anything. I haven't even, well, I haven't had anything injected into my face. Let's put it that way. And I haven't had any surgery. Now, I have had some dermatology visits, and
Mhm.
I've had a few other things done. So I'm trying to keep, I'm turning 60 here in about 2 months. So I'm trying to keep everything, up. My skin's starting to get a little crepey, but if you moisturize enough, you can't really see it, but you have to lotion up in order to be able to not see it. And it's what happens. The collagen in your skin starts to wither away and die. but for some people, and oftentimes it's the people that we've held up as being, very attractive in our society. Keep it going. They still look good. Mae West was one of those people back in the day, and according to George Raft, she kept recent photos, and well, she kept old photos, excuse me, of herself around so that she still saw herself as being, let's say, 40 years old, as opposed to 80. And somehow that kind of kept kept her looking good. And I guess that's probably all, that all comes back to you. So you have to watch what you eat so you don't get blemishes. You have to stay hydrated, because if you don't, your skin will crack. You have to stay out of the sun, which I'm not good at, because we're going to be on a boat like for 2 weeks next month, out in the sun. We're taking our convertible, up to the Great Lakes. So there again, we're out in the sun. That's kind of my Achilles heel. I love putting the top down. I love being on boats, and it is awful to your skin.
That sounds wonderful.
It does, doesn't it? But it's really hard on your skin. Anyway, I do think that, some people are able to, at any age, still be attractive. I think a lot of it's just self-maintenance too, and self-care, and I think some of it is, being, gorgeous or handsome when you're young too. I think if you had something to start off with, you try to maintain it, a little better, throughout life than most of us do. And some people make it look effortless. I mean, Mamie Van Doren, who I mentioned, she's 94 years old, and she posts current pictures of herself all the time. And you would never guess that she is that old, not by the clothing that she's wearing, or makeup or anything like that. Now she doesn't look 25 anymore, but I don't think that's the intention either. I think she just looks amazing to be in her mid 90s. And she shows herself, on her exercise bike, fairly often. She's at the beach walking her dog, so she's active, and that's another part of the puzzle too, is not just turning into a couch potato if you can help it. If you're not hobbled by arthritis, or like I was a couple of years ago, or something like that. That being able to move around, I think, is so important at any stage in life, but particularly at the stage in life that you and I are beginning to enter. And you can't move like you did when you were young. That's just, but you have to do what you can do, in order to keep your motor skills sharp.
Yeah, there is an ancient story about Hercules, the Theban Hercules, the Hercules of ancient Greece that didn't survive to the present, but it's depicted on pottery. And it
Mhm.
shows Hercules fighting with old age, or hieros, as it's called in Greek.
Ah,
And in one series of images, it looks like he's taking a whaling on hieros and kicking his butt. But in the other set of images, he and Hieros are like chatting amicably and like even shaking hands. And so it's always been a question as to what are these from different stories? Are they different points in the same story? We have no idea. But as I started to get older, I began to see that I started doing exercises, taking vitamins, doing all sorts of things to mitigate the effects of aging. And I still continue to do those things. I'm 66 now. Um,
mhm.
but I've also come to accept that this is how all lives end. So I can't take it personally, and I can stave it off and try to be as functional as possible and look as good as possible, um, for as long as I can. But this is what the winter of our years leads to. So
It sure does.
to embrace that and to accept it, that this is part of human life and we're part of human life. So there you go.
On the other hand, I mean, my cat's starting to destroy my house. I blanched, visibly a couple of minutes ago, and it's because she crawled up my leg with her claws. So, unfortunately, as you get older, scars don't heal like they used to
No, they
either.
don't. We have a cat and two dogs, so we know exactly what you're talking about, and we've had many more cats.
Yeah, I take a lot of vitamins and I take a lot of supplements to kind of mitigate the effects of arthritis. Um, I actually think there is something to it. I know you can overdo it on vitamins, well, and supplements for that matter. However, I do think that there is something to it, and some things I do think actually help your range of movement, how well you can move, especially if you have arthritis, like I do, um, which I've been able to keep under control mostly with diet and supplements. I don't take any prescription medication for it anymore. And for me, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical by any means, but the pharmaceuticals did not work for me. In
Mm.
fact, they made my situation far worse. Um, it was My arthritis was worse. I have psoriatic arthritis, so but my psoriasis was just on fire with the medication. The arthritis was extremely painful, and when I stopped taking the medication, it started improving.
Yeah, I've had discussions with medical practitioners about medication and their use, and I've tried to keep my dosages as low as possible and
Well,
working on lowering them even more.
and you have to do your own research too. You have to figure
Yes.
out, which drugs have negative interactions with one another, and that chasing that down, depending on how many medications that you're on, can be really difficult.
I
Um,
was prescribed one medication and I got like really sick within a couple of days.
mm,
So I researched it. I should have researched it before I put one in my mouth, but I was busy with other things. And I had every single rare reaction except
um,
coma and death. So I called,
oh no!
I,
I'm
I'm
glad you didn't have. Glad
I'm
you
not
didn't slip
taking any
into
more of these.
Oh boy, that reminds me of one of my favorite schlocky '70s movies, Coma. Um, but yeah, I sometimes you can have every side effect, in the book. Like I said, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical because I've been helped by some drugs I've been prescribed in the past.
Me too.
Uh, but if you can figure out a way to not take them, whether that's, and sometimes you just can't, you have to take it. But if you can figure out a way through diet and exercise to avoid it, by all means do so. And I think that will also increase your longevity as well.
I have to invite you on our health shows. We have one just on dealing with these type of things. You're very
Well,
articulate
yeah.
and very well researched. So I'd love
Well, I
to.
know what worked. I know what's worked for me. I,
Well, that's the point. That's the
yeah,
point.
it is. Yeah.
None of us are doctors, but we're all cautious and curious, and we research things, and then we test them on ourselves, and we know that what works for us now might not work for us later, and what works for us now might not work at all. And something somebody else did the same thing. It might not work for us, might work for us, but something to look into and something to try. So I don't know if you know Michael Del Rusi, if you've been on any shows with him, but he's a vegan and a vegetarian staunchly, and I'm a carnivore staunchly. But we get along great in expressing how our vegetarianism or carnivorism is doing with what we're trying and what the results are, and it's all in good spirits. And we don't have to agree. We don't. You don't have to buy what the other
Mhm.
person's saying. It's just this worked for me, and I'm sharing it with you. And thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I understand what people mean when they're saying this, and then we move on to other things. And he knows a lot about vitamins and Set
Mm.
met Michael K. Waterman. He knows a lot about vitamins and herbs. So it's a conversation that goes back and forth. So you're welcome to join that conversation if you wish.
Well, I'd love to. My diet's changed a lot over the years, and I am not vegetarian, vegan, obviously. However, I do eat far fewer animal products than I did when I was young. Far fewer, and I do try to eat more of a balanced, diet. Um, a lot of that's just digestive issues. Really, uh, after a while, your stomach can't process certain things. Um, Usually anything that tastes good is just not, it makes you dyspeptic.
I found that having a cheap meal once or twice a month
Mhm.
and just planning it ahead of time and not letting it extend into other meals or snacks on the day, just, to have what you want to cheat with. That doesn't really affect the blood. In fact, sometimes it'll get you past a plateau where the diets you've plateaued and you're not, your blood sugar, for instance, staying the same for days.
Mm.
Disrupting that plateau will make it go down in the day or two following. So I found that giving myself that as a present, and like I don't drink really, except when we go out for Mexican food, like let's say once a month. I like to have pina colada,
Mm.
and I make it I have it made a certain way. Athena knows how to make it at home, but the restaurant we go to, they make it perfectly also. And when I have my meeting, I like to have chocolate wine with my meeting. So
Mm.
those are the cheats I allow myself. Sometimes once a month, I allow myself an eclair from the place that makes the best eclairs in the world that we found a few years ago. But that's it. I will not cheat otherwise, and I find that it works just well.
Well, you have to treat yourself every once in a while, and that could have it's a good segue into the next topic that I wanted to talk about. Just to put a coda on Mara Corday, she was married to Richard Long, who was one of the stars of Big Valley on ABC in the 1960s. He's in House on Haunted Hill. When I was a kid, I used to watch Nanny and the Professor um,
Mhm. I remember
with
that.
Richard Long and Juliet Mills. And one of the Richards, I guess it was Kim Richards, who is now one of the, or was one of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and is a relative of Paris Hilton's. I think she's Paris Hilton's aunt or something like that. But she had a legitimate acting career, as a child. So did her sister Kyle Richards, who was also on one of the Bravo Real Housewives series. Um, their marriage, by all accounts, didn't seem to be all that happy of one. They were married for about 17 years. He had a heart defect and smoked and drank, which kind of hastened the end of his life. He was only 46 or 47 when he passed away, in which made Mara Corday a very young widow. She might have been, I don't know, early 40s, when her husband died. Um, After that, she appeared in a few films. They were mostly Clint Eastwood's productions because they were friends. They had met at Universal back in the early 1950s. He was a contract player at Universal as well. And you watch some of those and you can see glimpses of her. Um, and it's kind of fun to see how little she changed. I mean, like I said, I think she was just gorgeous, just beautiful to look at. But now we can talk about maybe saving a little bit of money. Um,
Always a good topic.
uh, well, and it's a necessary one anymore. I mean, just breathing. See, since COVID started, everything has just rocketed, in price, and entertainment is no exception. Um, Even here, where we live, we have Dish Network. That's our that's our major provider. But we also have an antenna, so we have that kind of programming we can watch. And there's quite a bit of programming on that comes through our antenna. We also have had a variety of streaming services. Just a few that we've had have been Shudder, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Prime, Peacock, Paramount, HBO Max, and there's actually a few more. We have World of Wonder, as well. We also have a Nomadic Kitty that I'm going to have to. There we go. Uh, and I mean, I watch so little of this stuff, and it just seems like a huge waste of money to me. And it is it's a high dollar. Um, if you weigh what the your monthly subscription fees and what dish costs, the antenna, however, is free, so we don't have to put that into the expense category because we've had the antenna for a long time, and you can pick up a pretty decent digital antenna for, I would say, between 100 and $150, and that's just a one-time thing. Now the cabling and the boosters and such will add a little bit to it, but for $200 or so, if especially if you live in a metro area, you can get 60, 70, 80 channels or more. And you definitely could, since you live so close to New York.
Right.
We live close to Pittsburgh, and we don't have access to that as many channels, but we still have all the major networks and such. So I guess one of my suggestions is this: if you live in an area where you might have access to free programming via the airwaves, you can check that out. There's several utilities online. Channel Master has one. There are some others as well. And you can key in your address, zip code, and so forth. And some of these applications will give you like a listing of what might be available to you in your area. Now we get, I think, about 24, 25 channels here, and I can't pull in all of the Pittsburgh channels. If I could, we would probably double that, or maybe even triple it. Don't have that capability at the moment, because my antenna, I live in a development and we're not supposed to have, I'm not supposed to have a satellite dish, but I've got one. Uh, so don't tell the HOA. But we're not supposed to have an antenna on the roof. So I actually have mine mounted in our attic. And it works really well. We get all the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CW, MeTV, FETV, Laugh, Escape. There's a bunch of PBS. We get three PBS stations. Two of them have different programming. One is just a higher definition of the main feed. You can save a lot of money, and there's enough programming there to keep me entertained. Quite honestly, I don't watch that much television. So if I can, get to an outlet where I can see the weather, the news, and then watch Svengoolie on Saturday night, I'm fine on MeTV. And
Athena,
that wouldn't satisfy a lot of people, though.
yeah, Athena and I binge watch something together every day. Right now, we're binge watching Supernatural. It
Oh, okay.
had 15 seasons, plus
Yeah.
animated uh, condensation of the first two seasons, slightly rewritten, and the story became more compact. She didn't like the animation that much, but we've been watching the show. We have it on DVD. We have all the seasons on DVD plus the animation, but right now they're in a box in the basement, so it's easier to watch them on TV. I don't really watch much more TV beyond that. I like the Marvel stuff coming out,
Mhm.
and so I'll watch that, or if Athena wants to watch it, she'll watch that with me. And I'll watch stuff on Tubi, which is free.
Mhm.
And
Now,
it's usually weird stuff that you can't get anywhere else. Like today, I was watching Frankenstein General Hospital.
I don't watch. I love Tubi too, and I do not watch it enough. Quite honestly, I probably watch YouTube more than anything else. But which streaming platform are you watching Supernatural on?
I don't really know. It's one of the common ones. I think it came with a package. I know that we have the Disney Plus package, and that comes with
Mhm.
Hulu and something else, maybe Netflix. So most of the things we watch are on that.
Ah, okay, okay. We recently switched. We Greg went down a tier on Dish Network to make room or for HBO Max. HBO Max, I think, is kind of spendy um, for an app. However, that's what we've been watching because they've got the content that we've been looking for. We've been binge watching The White Lotus. I don't know if you've ever seen that or
I'm
not.
not familiar with it.
You are familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not. Okay.
Uh,
Well, it takes place at a series of resorts across the world called the White Lotus. The first season is in Hawaii. The second season is in Sicily, and the third season is in Thailand. So the views are, the scenery is just stunning. You know, um, the action that's going on is almost unbelievable at times. But it's a pretty good. They actually turn out to be mysteries of sorts in a way. And there's some mayhem and malice here and there, especially this third season. This The fourth season has not aired yet, and I'm not sure who the stars are going to be, but the cast lists in these have been impressive. They really have. Um, Murray Bartlett, Jennifer Coolidge was in the first two seasons and is just a riot. I mean, she's fantastic. Um, Parker Posey is in this third season, and she's a lot of fun to watch too. A very different type from Jennifer Coolidge, but she is sort of in that in a similar vein, similar role, but a different type and a different approach to it, and very good. That's been a lot of fun to
Mhm.
watch. I have enjoyed White Lotus. We I tr Greg tried to get me into Only Murders in the Building, and something didn't translate for me. I saw the first two episodes and didn't care for it at all. I thought it was way too much exposition in it. And despite all the exposition, I never really did comprehend how the characters played by Selena Gomez, Martin Short, and Steve Martin all got together. That just never really did gel for me, and I never did go back to it because the first two episodes just didn't grab me. I should try again because I know a number of people who love the series, but I just didn't. And I the bad part about it is that I had high expectations going into this, so I thought, wow, I'm really going to like this, and I love the cast. I mean, Martin Short and Steve Martin are amazing. They're always fun to watch, except in this, they're just I just eh, I just couldn't get
I
in.
saw part of that too, and it didn't do very much for me either. And I went in with the same expectations either because I remember them from Saturday Night Live years ago.
Well,
And
and SCTV for Martin Short, that's
mhm.
going way back. And it just I will give it another shot. I promised that I would do that, but the first two episodes, I just
My
you know
wife
it,
and I found Resident Alien, and we've been watching now. We've saw the first three seasons, and now they have the first episode of the fourth season for free on YouTube. So we're probably going to catch that and watch. That'll be our new binge after Supernatural.
but there are several things I really like about HBO Max, and that's where we've been watching White Lotus. You have access to Turner Classic Movies catalog, which is really nice. In terms of streaming, you can't really get that with TCM, at least that I know of. And that's one of the reasons that we held on for so long to Dish. But when Greg dropped down a tier, we lost Turner Classic Movies. So I was excited to see that we could still see a lot of that content if we picked up HBO Max. And so far, I've been very impressed with it. We watched several movies, a few TV shows, and I've liked it a lot. We actually dumped the one that you're watching the most, Disney Plus and Hulu. We got rid of that because we just weren't watching it. I got to admit that they had some programming there that I was interested in watching and didn't get to. Um, and uh, and I am a sort of Disney file, but I just never really did warm up to the program that they offered.
Yeah, I had to pick between Disney, Star Trek, or DC Comics. So out of all those, Marvel was the one that I
I
chose.
wondered about that.
So we got rid of the other ones.
We also got rid of Netflix. Now we've had Netflix probably 4 or 5 times over the years. We picked it up when Netflix had a show on or a movie that we wanted to see, We keep it for a few months, and then we figure out that, hey, there's nothing else on this that we're watching, so we dump it. And that's happened several times, and we most recently dumped it again. We also dumped Shutter because I thought we would watch Shutter a lot, and we just weren't watching. And that's not to say that their content was bad. I actually liked the content. We just weren't watching. Now, the ones that we do watch, other than HBO Max, the ones that I think offer the content that we like. Now, this isn't good for anybody. It's sort of like the supplements that you take, and um, the 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 um, the pharmaceuticals that you take. Everybody's physiology is different. Everybody's tastes are different.
Yes.
But for us right now, HBO Max it's like I said, it's spendy, but it has what we want. I also really like Paramount as well, Paramount Plus. You get access to a lot of recently released films, and you get all of the CBS catalog of programming. So and there's all kinds of stuff there that you can watch, and we watch Paramount Plus a fair bit. And the other one that I like a lot that we don't watch, this is probably the weak sister of the three, is Peacock. However, I don't want to get rid of Peacock for a couple of reasons. For one, they own all of Universal's stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, and Universal has decades of content that I love. Universal horror films. They made all kinds of disaster films. They just, in the 70s, they just have a lot of the content that I like. And that's NBC as well. So you get a lot of the NBC programming there. And there's always Prime. And I know that Amazon is evil and hateful and whatnot. But if you do pay for the 2-day shipping, you also get access to some content. Now, it doesn't have as much content, as much free content, I guess I should say, or we'll call it free content, as the other streaming platforms. However, they offer something a little bit different, the alleged 2-day shipping that often isn't. Sometimes I can get stuff, next day. And sometimes stuff will be back ordered and I have to wait a week.
I've even had stuff delivered the same day. That was like freaky.
Well, you could because you live in a much larger area.
Right.
Our stuff comes out of Pittsburgh, and that's probably going to be overnight, if nothing else. But still, it's not. It's only about an hour. Well, probably 45 minutes from here is the big distribution center in the Pittsburgh area, so that's not even that bad. And I'm good to wait a day. That doesn't sound too bad to me. But those are the four streaming platforms that we seem to use the most, other than YouTube, which is the thing I probably do watch the most. HBO Max, Paramount, Peacock, and Prime. And we primarily will use Prime for a film that we didn't get to see in the theater. Or if my mother is in town, she likes to watch some recent releases, and we'll put her in the family room, in the theater room, and just load up all the content that she wants to see. And if we don't have access to it through one of the other streaming services, I'll just buy it from Prime. We watched when she was here last. I think that was for probably Easter. We watched a couple of the Terrifier movies, and one of them was Terrifier 3 was only available on Prime for a price at the time, but it wasn't, whatever it wasn't much. I'm thinking it was like $5 maybe or something like that. The Terrifier movies are incredibly gross, and and she likes horror films a lot, but I did make her sit through Terrifier, and she walked away from it, I think, liking it, but she did think it was kind of gross and sick, which they are, but they are massively entertaining. Um, so that's where we got with the streaming apps. If I had to cut another one, I would hate to do it, but probably Peacock, because,
Mm.
like I said, we don't watch it as much. but I would hate to lose access to all the Universal stuff.
But you have most of it on DVD or
I
VHS.
have most of the stuff that I like.
Blu-ray.
I mean, yeah, we have all of the Universal Monsters, the restored films on Blu-ray, um, and those restorations are just fantastic. Um, and I don't mind watching pulling. I always pull those out every Halloween anyway, and watch those. Um, but like I said, Universal had other content that I liked a lot, and hopefully we don't have to go down to, let's say, just three platforms. To tell you the truth, just between you and me, if we got rid of anything, I would like to see the satellite go.
Hmm.
We we do not watch that at all. I've been voted down on that a number of times, and who watches the Weather Channel for hours in the morning, and then can never tell me what the weather's going to be like. But still, uh, I I just have no use for Dish anymore at all.
Hmm.
I don't watch it. I just I like peace and quiet sometimes. I don't have to have television on. In fact, I prefer it not being on most of the time.
Well, you have exciting you go places and you have a lot of interesting hobbies, even just tied to your being a collector. And you've shared over the years very many tales of going in antique stores and going in
Mm.
thrift shops, and you happen to have the best ones that you've had the best experiences with on the map, it seems. And so you're always having adventures in the real world. So even though you enjoy cinema and you enjoy um, other popular cultural entertainments, you actually have a real life and you do real things in that real life. So you might not need as many of these watching options as many people who don't.
Well, I think I think you're absolutely right about that too. I don't have the patience to. I like being up and moving around. Um, and this is late spring, and I'm outside all the time, tending to the flowers or weed eating or something. And I enjoy or washing a car, something like that. I just like being outside at this time of year. And you're right. I mean, I do try to stay busy, and staring at a screen isn't always what I want to do. That said, though, there are times when I do like to sit down and watch a movie, or but try. I don't binge watch very well. I can only do about a couple of episodes, and
That's
I
how
have.
we do.
So I and from I mean I know quite a few millennials anymore, and they binge watch. They'll watch like an entire season, you know, which fortunately is like 8 or 10 episodes. I could not do that in one sitting.
We usually do 1 to 3 episodes.
Two is about my limit. Even if I like it, it's like, yeah, I need something else. I need a break. Um, so yeah, if it were me, I would get rid of the Dish. I just a lot of it's just boring. Well, and I guess I would miss ESP. We since we dumped Disney Plus, we don't get ESPN streaming, anymore because we had that package too. So if I want to watch, football in the fall or something like that, I'm going to have to, I guess, do it on the dish. Um, and that said, I'm really mad at two of my favorite teams right now, so I'm not planning on watching their games. I won't say which teams those are, but I'm really upset with one college team and one professional football team right now, and I'm not going to watch their games this fall.
I understand.
I know it sounds terrible and it sounds petty. It's just, yeah, I really don't like some decisions that they've made.
Hmm.
And there's a certain podcaster who used to play football for the university that I work for, and I really can't stand him. And although he's very well known, um, and he has had a role in the reason why I'm not watching either team. And I'll just leave it at that. I know that sounds obtuse, but
That's okay.
but it is.
It lends
Uh,
an aura of mystery to your persona.
yes, it does. Anybody who knows me can figure that out, though. It's not a hard. Um, Going back to free programming. I mean, gosh, there's a lot out there if you know where to look for it, and if you have a smart TV. Um, my mother's main TV in her living room is it's a flat panel, but it's ancient. They bought it. It's a Sony. It has a great picture, but it was they bought it before most TVs were smart TVs. And she's 80 years old too, and I'm not sure I want to teach her how to stream. Although I think I probably could. I don't think she would. I don't think that she would have a problem with that. But I've been trying to figure out some free programming for her, and and I've been saying this for years, but there are some fantastic public domain movies that are available to anybody. And if you don't want to see ads, you can watch them on archive.org, because those are the same copies that you see largely on YouTube and in other places. Only YouTube's going to insert a really annoying ad every 5 or 10 minutes, which is I know you can buy the ads off of YouTube, but that's kind of pricey though. I think it's
Yeah.
what $12-15 a month or something like that. It's almost as much as a HBO Max, and I no. Most of the programming I watch is instructional. Um, and I do what there are some other bloggers that I like to watch. Some of it's regarding amusement parks, Disney, Universal, and such. And I do stay up with that because we were at Disney last month. We're going to go back in late October, and we're going to go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party at the Magic Kingdom. And then after we're done at Disney, we're going to go to Universal, and we're going to go to Epic Universe. And
Sounds
I'm interested to see the Dark Universe portion of Epic Universe, because that's where all the Universal monsters are, and that's Universal Orlando.
when
And
I was on California decades ago, they had a Conan exhibit, and I love Conan the Barbarian and the Sword and Sorcerer movies of the 80s and all the books that those were based on or inspired by. And I figured I'd pass on it because it was always be there. It wasn't always there, so I'm really sorry that I missed the opportunity to go and experience that.
well, Universal Hollywood used to have a Universal Monsters attraction, but there were no animatronics. It was live action, and there were fortunately you can't throw a rock in LA without hitting a struggling actor. So they had very high quality people out in the park at Universal Hollywood. They had a Marilyn Monroe who looked amazing. They had any number of superheroes, such as Captain America. He's my favorite superhero. And in the Monsters attraction, which was a walkthrough, they had some fantastic people dressed up as Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, and the once when we were there, Wolfman scared the crap out of me. He just sort of jumped out of nowhere. you I wasn't expecting it, and it was at the very end of the attraction. And I still think about that. I mean, I loved it so much, and he looked amazing. I mean, he looked just like Lyle Talbot, from the Universal.
Oh, wow.
And it was they don't have that attraction anymore at Universal Hollywood, which really stinks. I think they got rid of it right before COVID hit. I think that's when it was probably really hard to staff, be my guess. Um, but we'll see how Epic Universe, and especially the Dark Universe portion of Epic Universe is. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. But other than that, I just don't watch a whole lot of programming. I've got some friends who watch way more TV than I do, and when we all get together, and we do a couple of times a week, they'll start talking about what they've watched, television wise, and I never know what they're talking about. So in order to be able to converse with them, I've tried to bone up, a little bit on it. Now, when it comes to films, even new films, I'm a lot better. I can keep up there. The last new film that I saw was Clown in a Cornfield, which isn't the greatest title, but actually I loved the movie. I thought it was really good. It's let me try to think of who's in it. Katie Douglas is in it. Will Sasso, who's a comedian,
Mhm. I remember him.
originally from Canada. But this thing was shot in and around Winnipeg, Manitoba.
He's an
And
SCTV alumni too, Will Sasso, if I recall correctly.
I believe so. I think you're right. Anyway, we've for whatever reason, I do like a lot of Canadian horror films, and they've made a lot of them over the years. I don't know about now, but it used to be a little cheaper to shoot films in Canada. Um, I'm not sure that that's still the case, um, but in the Canadians tend to turn out pretty good, horror films. Hell of a Summer, we saw that, I don't know, probably a couple of months ago. It was also Canadian, um, and I liked it a lot as well. It's a parody on slasher films from the '80s. And Clown in a Cornfield, hmm, it's a different film, and you know, obviously with Stephen King's It and John Wayne Gacy and other images of scary clowns, uh, it borrows some of that, but I really enjoyed the film itself. I thought it was really well done, beginning to end. There's a gay theme in it, but it's not. It's just ancillary to the plot. It doesn't really have any great bearing on the plot itself. Um, and I really enjoyed Clown in the Cornfield. I would watch it again. My biggest problem with it is I think the title's really lame. I think they could have come up with something a little bit better, other than just Clown in a Cornfield, because that doesn't sound all that entertaining. And the movie I think is better than the title.
I guess they figured the clowns in movies are usually horrific elements, and cornfields are usually saturated with evil as well. So if they put the two phrases together, it might give you double the horror fun.
I know a surprising number of people who are afraid of clowns.
Yeah, so do I.
Really? So it's not just me. And I know a couple of people who are afraid of dolls, which I
Yes, I've encountered people who are afraid of dolls as well. And then
okay. So it's not just the weird people that I know. So this is something that that's
there's
a
a lot
little
of
more
paranormal
universal,
literature
maybe.
about possessed dolls and voodoo dolls and demon dolls and all sorts of dolls. So there's a very rich cultural tradition of tales of these beings.
I guess you're right. Um, I I'm not well as I the older I get, the fewer fears that I have. The only things that I really fear are just getting sick to the point where I can't get out of bed, but which has happened, you know, to me on several occasions throughout life. Other than that, I monsters and things. I mean, I enjoy watching. They're a lot of fun, but they don't frighten me. Um, some of the violence that I see in contemporary horror films scares me a little bit, though. I, I I've seen a lot of body horror, over the last few years, and it's painful to watch. And I understand why it's a subgenre, um, and I understand that a lot of people enjoy it because it does have it gives you like the willies, as you're watching it. It produces an effect
Hmm.
on you. So I understand that. I understand it from that standpoint. Some of it though is just autopsy like, however, and um, it gets to be a bit much. The terror. I love the Terrifier movies, but they are using gallons of blood. I mean, yeah, stage blood. They're using it just in an incredible amount that is.
I saw
Um,
the first one, and you recommended the second and the third one, so I have those on
I,
my list of
I
movies to watch. So I'm just
the
waiting for
third
the opportunity to have chunks of time so I can enjoy them.
the third one's the best, and save it for Christmas
Okay.
because it's essentially a Christmas film. And if you love, Santa's sleigh and Krampus and Christmas Evil and
Yeah,
some
we love
and
those.
Black Christmas, this add this one in because Terrifier 3 is your new Christmas horror film, and it I loved it. I mean, it's done with some comedic flair, and I like it. I love dark comedies anyway. I love it when horror and comedic elements are woven together so well that they enhance one another. So you're titillated by what you're watching and you're disgusted by it at the same time. That's kind of the best of both worlds, really. Um, but yeah, go ahead and watch Terrifier 2 this summer or maybe this fall, but save Terrifier 3 for, let's say, November, December. And I think you'll really, really like it. Um,
Terrifier 2 is on Tubi. I believe I saw it there last time I
yeah,
was.
it is on one of the free. Couldn't remember which one it was, but it is on one of the free services. And those are, again, I mean, I've talked about them several times. Those are fantastically inexpensive films, made for, the first one was made for something like $25,000 or something ridiculous like that. The second one was about 250K, which is still ridiculous.
So low, yes.
Mhm. The third one was made for about 2.5 million, which there again, these days that's really low budget. And they actually had some good actors in it. Clint Howard is in Terrifier 3. He's in a couple of he's in one extended scene that is just mind blowing. Lots of fun to watch.
And the figure has become iconic already. The
Yeah,
ter-
you can dress up as, and they even address that in the third film. You can dress up as Art the Clown, for Halloween. You can go to Spirit or or your local, Halloween store when they pop up, and there's the costume. They don't call it Terrifier because I think that would get them sued.
Mhm.
Um, but you get the black and white striped costume with the black and white makeup and the teeth and whatnot.
Yeah, people in the costume industry tend to try to get around copyrights.
Copyright. And
I
that's going to be with the Universal monsters. That's getting very tricky,
Yeah,
um, because in about 18 months or so, uh, the 1931 Dracula and Frankenstein, the Universal films from the early 1930s, will be public domain. And if you see any of the new images coming out of Universal for their classic monsters, they have tweaked them enough so that they can like have a copyright on that image.
and
Interesting.
as time has flown by and the conversation continues, I had a really great time speaking with you tonight, Brian. Before we end it for today, how can people find you and enter your world and communicate with you?
We'll stop by the drive-in anytime, day or night. Go to briansdrive-in-theater.com. And if you want to interact with me on social media, I am only on Facebook currently, and I know I say this every month, but I am entertaining the thought of maybe expanding that to another platform or two. But you can find me on Facebook at Brian J. Walker or Brian's Drive-In Theater. I should come up.
Fantastic. And of course, I lost the picture, so now I'm going to try to find the picture again. Here we go.